Okay folks, got a today for a tear now, we've got ourselves a Ryobi 240 volt corded hedge trimmer. So let's have a look and see if it's got anything much of value to salvage. Okay, now with this thing you get a lot of plastic with these, and the plastic technically can go in most council bins. You just check with your council because it is a household item. I would suggest that you take all the metal, all the non-plastic stuff off each plastic piece, and don't upset your local council, although I think at the moment they're having trouble trying to find some to recycle on. The other option is if you're into thermoplastics, and later on in other videos I'm probably going to show you what I've done with them, is that you can actually repurpose the plastic and actually make things with it. Now if you've got a granulator or prepared to chop it up yourself, and then you can actually get a extrusion device, you can actually make yourself basically the filament for 3D printers. Just like you can literally turn this Ryobi, this yellow Ryobi or green, depends on people argue about whether that's green or yellow. Basically you can actually turn that into filament, and you can, I guess you could probably make a miniature, print a miniature version of a Ryobi hedge climber, for example. There's a lot of open source designs on the internet for you to locate, download. Depends on your printer, depends on what format you use. I'm not an expert on it by any means, but I certainly would like to get more into the thermoplastics. I've made a few things, but I'd like to be a little bit better at it. But as far as this is concerned, there's just screws for days. So you've got to take them all out. Good idea is to magnetize your screwdriver before you start, because the recesses for these screws are quite deep. Instead of turning it over and knocking out each screw by hand, you can just draw it out with a magnetic force on the tip of the screwdriver, and it works quite well. There we go. Alright, now did I get that one? No, I didn't. Okay, sorry taking so long. Normally my videos are nice and short and to the point, but this one's going to take a little bit of effort. A little bit of elbow grease, as we used to say in the old days. I think, did I get that one? I can't tell. No, I didn't get him. Alright, he's coming out now. So there will be copper in this in the form of the cord, and the motor, being a Ryobi, the motor is probably got copper windings, so copper wire windings. But quite often now you'll find that a lot of the cheaper things are getting more and more. The cost saving involves using aluminium wire instead of copper wire on motors. For example, vacuum cleaners, and the cheap household fans, the white ones on a pedestal, they're turning up now with aluminium wire in the wiring, and it's quite disappointing to all that effort to pull the fan apart and only to find out that it's aluminium. Still worth something, not very much at all, but it is still worth something. Okay, so I think I have got it all, so I will use a little bit of percussion persuasion, and whoop, that was a little bit too much. There we go. Now, if I was trying to keep this for spare part, oh, we've got something down here. Yep, okay, so the handle itself is not in, there's a piece bridging across the two halves, and that's why it's not separating. Okay, so if I can just, where are you? There we go, get the center of that. Now, some people will be asking me, why do I not use a power drill, as in a cordless drill? Now, that's a personal choice. It is by far a much quicker option to use the cordless drill, and I'm not knocking it, other than the fact that I honestly like to feel what's going on. If you ask anyone who uses a cordless to strip things, they do strip out the, usually it's a Phillips head, and that they strip out. They put a little bit too much torque in, they've got too much torque in the power drill, and they basically they'll end up stripping out that, so it can't be pulled out. And it's very, very annoying to get it all done except for one screw, which you just can no longer get out. You can use like there's extractor sets. There's ways you can go about it, but that's more of a mechanical thing. Like if you had a bolt stuck in a motor, that's when you go to all that trouble. Okay, now we're going to start to see it fall apart. Here we go. Let them fall on the floor for later. And now the main thing is get our two halves, and oh, okay, so now we find out where we've missed some. You can, if you were repairing this, if you were basically pulling apart two to make one, which is something I've done before, not this in particular, not the Hedge trimmer, but quite a few. Like I like the Ryobi brand. They're a good basic brand. They do make their equipment to a good standard, even though it's their baseline when it comes to what's available. And quite often you'll find that it can be repaired. It doesn't even have to be exactly the same model. It can actually be repaired quite easily. Now here we're going to get the guts of it, and I'll just take you through and explain this in a moment. And I'll explain what's worth money and what's worth just chucking out or scrapping. Okay, so here we have the cord, which will be copper. That little bit of that cord in there will be copper. These pins are actually nickel-plated brass, and a lot of people just cut that plug off and throw the plug away. Whereas I actually I recover those, and I'll show you that in another video. All right, so what we're left is the motor. Now, all this mechanical stuff, if you've got a project, I don't know what you use it for. Looks like I might have a little bit of aluminium there, extruded aluminium, so that's a bonus. And there'll be some gears and things in here. But what I'm looking at, for me, is the copper. The copper and the wiring. That's the big payday, so to speak. I mean, we're talking about maybe $1. It's not a lot. Yeah, when it comes down to it, it's about consistency. If you're sitting here all day and you're constantly adding copper up, it does add up. And once it adds up, for example, yesterday I was stripping some copper wire, and it takes a little while, but there we go. That's the copper wire I got. And now we cut to the copper that we got out of it. This is the first time for me editing, so please don't give me too much grief in the comments. All right, so we've got the copper, which is in the winding just here, and also just here. Okay, and how you tell it's copper, you can give it a bit of a scratch, and it takes a little bit of experience to tell the difference between bright, shiny red copper and aluminium, but you do get there in the end. And otherwise, you just take a little bit off and just give it a bit of a weight test in your hand. Copper is quite heavy. All right, so you definitely get copper in this thing. Then you usually get copper in those as well. You get the copper out of those. And over here, where the bushes were, they are almost always brass. I just flatten them out with a hammer and chuck them in the small brass. Okay, guys, thank you very much for that. And yeah, I hope you liked it. And by all means, give me some suggestions about what to do next. Thanks.